mindset of women, especially if you've been trying for a while and then you finally get pregnant and you want to be so perfect about being taking your vitamins and minerals because you had been doing so already during your fertility journey, right? So then when it comes to being pregnant, you almost have this sense of guilt. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to be perfect and be able to take it every day. And then you feel guilty if you don't.
Have you ever wondered if it's really necessary to take supplements before or during pregnancy? It's a common question, and many women ask if they can just simply eat healthy instead. Folate, after all, is found in dark green leafy vegetables, and a healthy diet could potentially be enough, right? Today, we're going to talk all about the ins and outs about why and when and how to take a prenatal, folic acid, and what forms of the vitamins to take. And Mary and I are going to share our own stories with prenatals as well. So you can learn you don't have to be perfect to have healthy kids, regardless of taking a vitamin, multivitamin, mineral, and during pregnancy.
Yeah, I love this. And I think this is a topic that needs to be addressed because everybody can get confused. It's like, do I even need to take it? And if I do, when do I start? Do I take it while I'm trying to conceive? Do I take it while I'm pregnant? Do I take it even after? Like, how long do you do it for? So let's just begin by even your personal experience. Did you take a prenatal when you were trying to conceive?
I definitely did while trying to conceive because I researched it and said that it would help make sure that the development of the follicles were good. And I thought that it would help me, improve my chances of getting pregnant. So definitely took it beforehand. During was a different story. It was on and off, and I changed sometimes to a chewable form. And there were phases where I was only taking a folic acid instead of a prenatal because I was very nauseous during different phases of my pregnancy.
Oh, so see, I didn't know that about your pregnancy. And so same with me. When I got pregnant, I was in a position, I never vomited really. Oh, no, sorry. Twice I vomited because I had the gag reflex brushing my teeth.
Is that it? I'll just tell you how much I vomited. Oh my goodness me.
But everybody's different. Now,
I know.
Having said that, I did have low-grade nausea. And, certain things help it for sure. And certainly the acupuncture, I used acupuncture to help the nausea. But the point is, yes, I took the prenatal before. And the concern is, oh my gosh, I need to be able to take it during. But then what happens if you're a little nauseous? Well, I was, and I had that gag reflex, and those vitamins are not small. It's like this giant horse pill to swallow. So it actually caused gag reflex. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I could not fathom it. So was I taking them more? So actually less than. Did I stop altogether? Maybe I even stopped, right, for a while because I just could not take it. And so the reason why I want to share that and why we're sharing this is because I think then there's this fear of, oh my goodness, if I don't take it, then is my baby going to be a total mess, right? Or how's my pregnancy going to progress? So let's actually talk about this, talk about some research and then the realities and what we can do.
Well, there is evidence of the benefits of what they say micronutrient supplementation. So all that means is like the vitamins, the multivitamin minerals specifically targeted for women in pregnancy. So prenatal vitamins and minerals. It shows that if you take the micronutrients, it can protect you against these little things that can happen or big things that can happen, but it only reduces the chances by a small amount, but enough that why not if you can, right? Take it. For example, some cardiovascular issues in infants and neural tube defects, which is a big one with the connection with folic acid, and then even some pediatric cancers. It reduces the risk of brain tumors, neuroblastomas, and leukemia. So of course, even that small reduction in risk is going to motivate women, knowing that was based on a 2021 review, that there is definitely potential to reduce the risks if you take a multivitamin mineral. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be every single day. And if you're like we were, nausea and vomiting, like every time I would take the dog out for a walk, I had to pick up the poo, and neighbors would be like, because I'd be like walking down the street holding my
TMI,
hands
guys,
face.
TMI.
And I know, and the neighbors would be like, just put it in the green bin. And so because they knew I was pregnant, it was so sweet. They're like, don't worry, or toss it. I'm like, no, I can't litter. So, but taking the vitamins and minerals, definitely don't do it on an empty stomach. It's because there's certain minerals in there that can make you feel nauseous, like zinc and iron. So it's really important to always pair your multivitamin mineral with food. And then even then were phases, like I said, that I wasn't able to take it, or I would take it with a chewable instead of a capsule form. So at least there are different options. And then it's just being very selective of the time that you're taking it. And so knowing that research, because it had been previously also studied, I was very motivated to take a multivitamin mineral, but I realized the most important is to be able to get the folic acid in there because of the reduction in not just neural tube defects, but cardiovascular abnormalities. So there's all these like big things that are very low chance of happening and then you're lowering your risk a little bit by taking them. So why not? The issue sometimes though is when you overdose, like some people will mega dose on the individual vitamins, and that's not a good thing.
Right. And so I guess going back to the whole mindset of women, especially if you've been trying for a while and then you finally get pregnant and you want to be so perfect about taking your vitamins and minerals because you have been doing so already during your fertility journey, right? So then when it comes to being pregnant, you almost have this sense of guilt. It's like, oh my gosh, I need to be perfect and be able to take it every day. And then you feel guilty if you don't. And then it's just this whole torturous experience. And really what we want to say is like, just breathe. It's okay. We deal with life and, circumstances, and not everybody gets nauseous, right? Some people can totally take supplements and Chinese herbs even while they're in their first trimester, and others it's like, oh my gosh, like if you look at me the wrong way, I'll vomit. So it's
if you look at me the wrong way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, how do we navigate that and still feel good about ourselves? And like, how can we actually, then I'll talk to you about this. Then how did you feel when you were not able to take it? I thought it was a really smart strategy. I didn't do this. I just went, oh, I can't do this anymore. So I stopped. But it was interesting to hear that you went, oh, let's try another form. Let's try chewable. Right? I never thought of that.
Times, yeah.
Well, and I was actually the different time thing. Yeah, that's very relevant. And so time as well as with food for sure. Anything else that we covered already to add on?
So there's different forms. There's chewable and liquid and even type of prenatal. So there's different prescriptions that will sometimes be given to women where they're told to take it twice a day, the AM and PM, and sometimes reversing the PM to the morning and the AM at night helps. Like it's on the bottle, it'll say, take these two and this one in the AM and this one in the PM. Just changing the time reduces the nausea, because I think the iron one is at night, I believe. I forget what it is, but it's not a vitamin that I normally recommend, the prescription ones, because I don't prescribe those.
Right.
The issue too is there's tablets and capsules and liquids and chewables, and sometimes people have an issue with just the form, the tablet versus the capsule, and then even within each prenatal, there are different binders for different minerals. So not just the mineral itself, like iron, there could be an iron citrate or iron bisglycinate or picolinate. Like, so there's different types. So if let's say you try one, like a prescription doesn't work, you change the time, that doesn't work. Then you try a third-party tested health food store level or something recommended by your naturopath multivitamin prenatal. That doesn't work. Well, there are maybe other brands that would work for you. So it's not just changing the capsule, but to let's say a chewable could be just trying different brands of prenatals.
And that's all fair. And I actually love that perspective. And I'm also going to side on the camp of that sounds overwhelming. I'm pregnant. I'm nauseous. I'm not going to sit there and like hunt down 10 different kinds of supplements and see which one's going to work.
No, that's a good call for sure. Absolutely. And it doesn't usually take more than like one or two attempts.
I know. I'm just
no, but it's a good point. It's a very good point. And then just getting evidence a recommendation from a naturopathic doctor often helps. But you're right. You're not going to want to waste buying a bunch. The other option is, let's say you did go through 2 or 3, you can use the ones that you tried and didn't work for you during your nausea phase and like use them up later, because we tend to be on them for a good 10 months. And then later when you're postpartum and breastfeeding, you can still use them. So if they did, and they have an expiry usually of 2 or 3 years. So
yes,
they might not have worked when you're pregnant and nauseous, which by the way, I totally was like, yes, I'm nauseous. Like I was happy about being nauseated, right? After years of fertility struggles. Apparently it says that if you have nausea, increases the chances of a healthy pregnancy. And so that's what I just kept telling myself. That's not totally true, but because there's lots of pregnancies where you're not nauseous. So that are completely healthy and fine. But
I love that we segue into, totally off the topic of supplements, but it's true. When you've been trying for a while, you want to have some pregnancy signs. And of course, the biggest telltale sign often is the whole nausea bit. And I've had patients that say, I'll say, oh, do you want me to treat your nausea when you're pregnant? And I'll treat it. And it's so good. They come back the next week and they say, Mary, can you not treat my nausea, please? Because I was freaked out. It's gone. Exactly. Because they're like, oh my gosh, now I don't think I'm pregnant because my nausea is gone. So they're like, so everyone's different. So some people will say, yeah, no, Mary, I feel like yucky, so please treat it. And others are like, no, just leave that alone, please. Thank you very much. I want to know that I'm pregnant. So however it works for you. And then, so now going back to the prenatal, and you brought up, people take it to 10 months, people take it while they're breastfeeding. So let's answer, like, why would someone want to do this? Okay.
Absolutely. So postpartum, it's helpful because when you're breastfeeding, if you are able to get extra iron and iodine to support your thyroid. The iron, because to just replenish your blood, and you're losing some through your breast milk. And then the extra calcium, which you're also losing through your breast milk. So you can get all these things through nutrition, diet, if you're eating enough seafood, and for the iodine and dairy. And then for iron, the red meats. It's just, it's sometimes hard to find that balance to get sufficient amount. And you might be postpartum anemic if you had a lot of blood loss in labor. So it's nice to continue taking. They do recommend it. And, you do your very best with your diet when you're postpartum, and hopefully you create your village and get lots of support with cooked foods from friends, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if I may jump in, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So just to add in what you're saying, which is all great stuff. So coming from a TCM, Chinese medical point of view, and even Western science too, anytime you have a childbirth, whether you have lots of blood loss or not, we say it depletes your essence. We're born into this world, we're endowed with a specific amount of essence, and certain things depletes essence. So your menstrual cycle, every time you bleed, we actually dip into this little essence bank account. And when you give birth, it dips it that much more. And then, of course, there's this continuance if you're breastfeeding, because you're now, doing a marathon every day, creating milk and feeding a little one. So all of that is energy consuming, blood consuming. And so it's good to replenish. So as you mentioned, with food and proper drinks and
soups and stews.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to go. Awesome. Soups
Warm,
and stews. So
nutritious. Yes. Yeah. Like lots of dark greens and beef and like the meats that are darker. Sorry to interrupt, but I was like,
no, yes. 100%.
I definitely think we need to, make sure.
And that's another podcast, right? Mm-hmm. But so then to add on to that, like, what you're doing in your food, is it enough? Can it be enough?
Technically, it probably could, but it's that reassurance, and you feel I find that my patients, and I did too, feel better energy when I did it as much as I could to do, like as good as I could with my nutrition. And then I topped it with the multivitamin mineral, the prenatal, because there were days you're flying by the seat of your pants and you don't realize how much a baby changes your world. So it's nice to have that reassurance that you're not depleting yourself. So postpartum, it's more about you. It's not necessarily for your baby. And actually, to be honest, I used to say to patients, when you can eat, like, humans, babies are the best human parasites ever, because they will just take what they need. So during those, nausea, vomiting days, if you happen to have them, we worry less because, your body will just grab the calcium reserves and the iron and everything and just give it to your baby. So there's very, us talking about you reducing your risk for these, brain tumors in kids, and the research that shows that this is correlated, right? Like cancers, leukemia, it's such a low risk that those things are going to happen in the first place. And yes, it does reduce the risk of, in a small way, but like the chances of all that happening is so low. So you could technically get away with a balanced diet. We're just trying to make sure that we're, giving all the evidence that it does show that it would reduce the chances by a very minor amount. So why not? Right.
So that's awesome. And so just to recap, yes to prenatal when you're trying to conceive, yes during pregnancy, and yes to postpartum. And simultaneously, if you don't, it does not mean you're going to have a demise. Right. But what we're saying, it's that extra reassurance, maybe lowering the risks. So it's not about feeling guilty if you're not, or whatever circumstances there are where you're like, you want to take it, but you can't, and you feel sickly. Right. Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, in our next podcast, because this is a lot, we're going to jump in and talk about, the different types of folic acid and, why maybe a little too much can be harmful. So not just taking the micronutrients as being the priority and not, overdosing with any particular vitamin, but like what type of folic acid and how much and why not to overdo it.
Yeah. And that's great because of course, everybody hears about folic acid. They may not know what the heck they're taking it for, but, so we'll do a little deep dive into that. So thank you all for joining us. And we are here and we're dedicated to give you information based on our professional experience and through science and research and our personal experiences because we are moms. And going forward, we started with a very fertility heavy podcast. And what we want to say is, this is just a continuum of life. So going forward, we're going to speak and address fertility, but we're also going to talk about basically the whole fertile life. So it's like, okay, fine. Now what? You get pregnant. Now what? Or you have a baby. Now what? So we want to be able to guide you through your whole fertile life from before you even conceive to during pregnancy to postpartum to menopause, like
amazing children,
children, because that's the bottom line. And so before we can't finish this episode off, it's like, ultimately, when you said you take the supplements, do the diet for you, and I'll add to that, it's 100% for you. And it's also for you to be the best version you can be to actually help your future child.
Yes.
Right? For a healthy family. So it's for you, but it's also for your family.
For sure. 100%. And I love that you shared that we are going forward, going through all the phases. And the reason we did that was because we listened to you. We got your feedback. So if you have any topics that you want us to cover specifically, please comment on this podcast or DM us and let us know, and like and subscribe to our podcast and share, because this is good, solid, topics and evidence-based research. And, we put a lot of efforts into our podcast, and we want the world to have this information because it's so helpful. And we know that not everybody can, you deserve it. And not everybody can be our patient. So, share the knowledge, because knowledge is wealth.
Yay. Thank you.